Hello, my souls, and welcome again to a bit of strangeness, or rather, to the bit of strangeness that is me writing. And, am young. What? Can I clean you up like Jacques did Nemo from Finding? What are you talking about? I actually. Weird! Weird admission. I've never actually watched Finding Nemo in its entirety. I've only seen the snippets of the movie. Also, hello Heather, hello Yuki, hello uh Aiden. Also, hello M Young. Oh. Alright. Change major edit. Ah. Well, yay. Also, snuggle the overwhelmed Pine Martin. We're actually going to be continuing the Legacy of Hate series. Specifically continuing the second chapter, which is Upon Her Altar. So, that one. So, for a reading recap, I remember it fondly. The overwhelming scent of salt in the air, the sound of distant waves upon the mountainous barrier that surrounded the Temple of the Four Winds. So different it all seemed from the darkness of the darkness of that prison they called Arlen's Watch. I remember standing there upon the shore, staring in awe at the waters which separated the temple from the barrier beyond. In truth, this place was no more than another prison. Though it was magnificent in its own right, a gilded cage is still a cage. I stood for what felt like hours, watching the suns as they set over the mountains beyond, until their light faded entirely, the darkness bringing with it the true beauty of the stars above, and bringing the blue-green hues of the celestial rings to their true majesty. I felt in that moment that I might truly be free, that I might truly be able to live as my mother had wanted for us. How wrong I was. For in that moment, how could I have known the bond I shared with her? How could I have known that even in freedom I would suffer the anguish inflicted upon my sister? Standing there in that moment, I felt at peace for the first time since I could remember. But the silence was soon to be broken. There you are, came a voice from behind me, one soft as the sea is vast and gentle as mother's touch. Valden told me we had a new arrival, she continued as I turned. How horrific I must have looked to her in that moment. A creature naked as the day I was born, half drenched in blood and caked in dirt and grime. Yet she smiled at me all the same. Valden. The name should have been foreign, yet I knew it as if it had been part of my memory since I was born. It was the name of the woman who offered me hope, who had offered me mercy. It was the name of the being who would soon become my mentor and who eventually would come to curse the day she saved me from my masters. Who are you? I managed to ask. studying the almost feline girl who had been my first encounter in this new life been given. My name is Arenia, she said. Or she replied, though it hardly registered in the moment. I was too fixated on her golden eyes, her ebony fur, and the almost hypnotic way her tail swayed behind her. I must have stared for a moment at her, because before I could speak my name in turn, the smile broadened, quiet giggle escaping her. My name is Kareth. Eventually, Arenia led me up the winding path to the temple above, all while regaling me with stories of her homeland in the Southern Isles. All the while I couldn't help but wonder, what would my own life have been had I not been born a Kirisai? What could have been had the universe not shown my people such cruelty? Those questions, however, melted away when I first laid eyes on the temple grounds. Built of fine marble and polished stone, with waterfalls cascading seemingly from the sky itself. The sight of my new home left me stunned when I first laid eyes on it. Every hue imaginable was represented in the tapestries that adorned the outer walls, the fabrics billowing with the ever-present breeze that I would come to miss when I would eventually leave this place. Oh, hello, Robert. Oh, I'm hoping you guys can see the text. I'm assuming, yeah. Also, give me a second. I'm gonna try doing something because first things first, I'm gonna save this draft. I'm gonna see if I can do a thing to make the text a little bigger on the screen. Uno momento. Also, hi guys. Well, that didn't work too terribly great. Took it in for as long as I could, standing in awe of the size, scope of this so-called temple. In truth, it was the size of a town, not bigger. Multiple buildings adorned the edges of the courtyards, some small and simple, while others stretched seemingly to the heavens above. I could have lost myself in the sight of it all, forgotten the pain and suffering that had been my existence thus far. Forgotten the pain and suffering that it is going pretty good. I could have forgotten the pain and suffering that had plagued my very existence thus far if it were not for what caught my eye next. Were not for what caught my eye next. It's as if he could see something in tit. Okay. Malleable. A-L-L. God, let's see if I can get the, So the wrap issue is once again becoming an issue on this. No momento. Are you kidding me? Fucking work right, please, system. Holy Jesus fuck nuggets. Oh my god. Have to do a thing. Apologies, by the way, y'all. Oh, thank you. I do very much love this shirt myself. It's nice and comfy. Well, shitfuckle. Alright, so the rap issue is going to be annoying. That's fucking moronic. Alright. Back to the writing. Oh. Took it in for as long as I could. Standing in awe of the size and scope of the so-called temple. Truth, it was the size of a town, if not bigger. Multiple buildings adorned the edges of the courtyard, some simple, while small and simple, while others stretched seemingly to the heavens above. I could have lost myself in the sight of it all. I could have forgotten the pain and suffering that had plagued my very existence were it not for what caught my eye next. No. I could have lost myself in the sight of it. I could have forgotten the pain and suffering that had plagued my very existence thus far in a place such as this. A young and a young Inari. Young Inari caught my eye. Young Inari eventually caught my eye. A fox by the looks of him. Stood not far from one of the smaller buildings, rubbing his paws together. Stared at a block of stone before him. It was as if he could see something in it that no one else could, and for a moment I believed he would reach for some tool, chisel perhaps, to begin sculpting it into something more. However, no tool was produced. He simply laid his paw, as he simply laid his paws against the surface and closed his eyes. I would have believed him a madman were it not for what happened next. It wasn't with tool, or the application of force that he worked, but with his will alone. Some unseen force began to shape the stone, almost like a sculptor would mold clay. Solid rock became so malleable that even the faint winds of this place could alter its surface. Alright, how do you spell foreign? F-O-R-E-I-G. Yet it felt familiar. The only upside to procrastinating on with the floors is that kiddo didn't vomit on clean floors. You really need to teach that kiddo to grab a bowl or something when he's gonna puke. I know it's not as easy as that, but still. Yelling doesn't necessarily teach too well. Oh, he did try to aim for the towel but missed. If that's the case, then yeah, that's kind of a to be expected. That's why I was saying like something like a bowl that you could literally put up in his face when he goes to hurl. Yeah, shit, um, the way my family did it. Let me see if I can use breakfast bowl here. The way my family did it is whenever I was a kid, if it sounded like I was gonna hurl, they would grab something and literally just go like force it up to my face and let me hurl into it. Yeah, I mean that is a thing. They did. My family did the same thing for me when I was really really little. They got a. I'm gonna go put my breakfast stuff up. Give me a minute. I mean, yeah, that's a thing. I have to check really quick. How to spell a nari? Oh, I'm really spelling it wrong. Shit. Ah, just lost that chunk. Fuck. Fuck! So now you guys are seeing the... Okay. It's Annari. Well, shit, fuckle. I would have lived in the madman were it not for what happened next. Earth's surface. Oh, fuck. Yeah. God damn, and what does he have? Like, I'm assuming he's sick. What was the application for? But with his will alone, some unseen force began to shape the stone almost like a sculptor would mold clay. Solid rock became so malleable that even the faint winds of this place could alter its surface. Ebb and flow, some form of energy. Sort of energy. One that should have felt foreign and yet was strangely familiar. Hello, Ramon. How? Stone forms slowly at first. Change slowly at first. Stone changed slowly at first, like the tentative brushstrokes of a painter unsure of his brush. No. Sure enough. Stone changed slowly at first, like the tentative brushstrokes of a painter unsure of his canvas, but sure enough, the subtle shifting of the stone became more frantic. Soon it broadened and finer details take form. Gown. Soon what had once been a mere block of stone had become a towering statue of a maiden. The simple gown adorning her body billowing like fine silk in the wind before becoming solid once more. Detail in each tuft of fur. Not Tuffy. A detail in each tuft of fur, each. Okay. So, a young Inari, a fox by the look of him, stood not far from one of the smaller buildings, rubbing his paws together as he stared at a block of stone before him. It was as if he could see something in it that had not that no one else could, and for a moment I believed he would reach for some tool, a chisel perhaps, to begin sculpting it into something more. However, no tools produced as he simply laid his paw against its surface and closed his eyes. I would have believed him a madman were it not for what happened next. It wasn't with tool or with the application of force that he worked, but with his will alone. Some unseen force began to shape the stone almost like a sculptor would mold clay. Solid rock became so malleable that even the faint winds of this place could alter its surface. Amidst the spectacle, I could feel the ebb and flow of a sort of energy, one that should have felt foreign, and yet it was strangely familiar. The stone changed slowly at first, like the tentative brushstrokes of a painter unsure of his canvas, but sure enough, the subtle shifting of the stone began to grow more frantic. The perfectly carved block became a towering pillar, spiraling easy to 15 feet before broadening. If it had simply stopped there, I would have been impressed. If it had stopped there, I would have been impressed, but soon the finer details began to take form. What had once been a mere block of stone had become a towering statue of a maiden. The simple gown adorning her body billowing like fine silk in the wind before becoming solid once more. The detail in each tuft of fur, each shapely or subtle curve of her body was exquisite. And had I not witnessed the creation of it with my own eyes, I would have thought it a masterpiece shaped over a lifetime. Oh, what would you guys do if you had that kind of power, by the way? Just the ability to put your hands up to a piece of fucking stone and, with nothing but a thought, shape that stone into something absolutely beautiful. Much bigger than it should be, much more detailed than it should be. That's the power of alchemy in this world. And this is literally just the act of a student who had only days prior learned how to manipulate that energy that's mentioned in the story. Oh, all right. He's clean, floor's clean, incense is lit. Yeah, realistically, the easy way of getting rid of the smell of vomit is going to be with something like Pine Sol. I mean, that sucks. I would say get some as soon as you can, or something akin to it. But disinfectant or bleach based is probably going to be your best bet for when it comes to cleaning. Unless, of course, the floor is something like carpet, then it's going to be you're going to need a like a Bissell or something. Cool. Then you just need a bleach based or disinfectant based cleaner, like Pine Sol or Fabuloso or something like that. I mean, if your rug's a mess within a couple days, you probably shouldn't be doing that to yourself. Sorry, couldn't resist. What do you guys think so far, by the way, of the depiction of how this is happening? Because understand, from the uh perspective of the character, all he's seeing is a kid his age put his hands up to a block of stone, close his eyes, and all of a sudden the stone just goes all wibbly and starts becoming a giant statue. Like, I know it's long-winded, but the description of like what's happening, the entire change from a block of stone like the size of my chair to a 15-foot tall elegant statue only takes like a couple minutes at best. It's getting nipply in here. Give me a sec. Have I been muted this whole fucking time? Weird. I don't know why, but it was muted just a second ago. Either way, hoodie for the win. Like, I've got my big ass hoodie. I see you. But ye, big ass comfy hoodie. I mean, it is weird, but it is kind of a lull moment. Uh, Ugh. The right analog stick is starting to be fucky wucky. First things first, I would suggest trying to clean the controller. Hello, Johnson. How you're gonna do that is you're gonna take the batteries out of it. You're gonna take a little bit of like rubbing alcohol and a Q-tip and uh, well, here. It's not a Q-tip, but like you're going to take the controller uh with like actually I'm gonna save my draft just in case this fucks something up. But what you do is you take the Q-tip, dip the tip in rubbing alcohol, and then just press, move to one side, go around the edges, down, around the edges, one side, around the edges, up, around the edges, and then do that for a good couple seconds, and then let the rubbing alcohol, dry, or more accurately, take a piece of cloth or like piece of toilet paper afterwards and like rub once around the edges. See, 9 times out of 10, why a controller will stick is because it's like what's the word? Dirty. Like you've gotten stuff in underneath the controller, uh, like the actual analog stick, and what's happening is it's gunked up underneath, so it sticks. If that doesn't work, realistically, only way I can think of to get you a new controller, depending on what you like or what you want, would be either through Microsoft, through GameStop, or through like another game, uh, like game seller.
They call it a joystick because it brings such joy, but it is grimy as fuck.
Oh, Pink Gorilla. So that's another thing is I wouldn't go to a used game store. Those in the bag later. Uh, I really need to tidy up my fucking desk. There's a bunch of cans on it. By the way, for those who didn't know, I actually do have a book. The very first iteration of Tales of Ithorian. It's going to be 33 degrees in Charlotte, North Carolina on Friday. That's just 1 degree above freezing. Arenia. Oh. I forgot they're fellas, not fillary. Fillary would be the word for multiple fellas. Damn. Johnson, hopefully y'all have winterized your pipes. Yeah, stick drift is a thing. Alright, so. When the Inari's eyes opened once more, it was with a look of disbelief, as if he had not expected this outcome. He stood in awe at his own creation, even as Irenia practically skipped up to him and belted out, "What a beautiful statue!" The sound of her voice seemed to startle him at first, but the expression was short-lived as he realized who it was. "I know, right?" he said, with a barely audible chuckle. His voice far deeper than one would expect of one so small. His voice far deeper than one I would have expected for one so small. I didn't think it would work at first, but he trailed off, looking to his creation with an expression that can only be described as equal measures of pride and confusion. But nothing, you did it, Renia chimed, her voice filled to bursting with enthusiasm. Feels good, doesn't it? They spoke like old friends, like two people who had known each other since either of them could remember. And yet I knew enough to know far better. Fellas, the cat-like people of our world hailed from the southern isles, while the Inari likely came from the mysterious and untamed lands far to the north. Their homelands were their homelands were from nearly a world apart, and yet they seemed so comfortable in each other's presence, or in the presence of the others. And yet they seemed so comfortable in the other's presence. If only this peace could be known beyond the walls of this temple, perhaps then my life, my choices, would have been different. Okay, by the way, for those who do not know, this this is the map of the known world in Athorian. Lands far to the north being up here and way up here. Halar, the place that this book takes place in, is here. Arlen's Watch, the slave colony that Kareth is from, is over here. And this is the Temple of the Four Winds. The Tower of Valden. By the way, the Tower of Valden is not the temple itself, but the massive spire in the center of the temple. That was not the button I wanted to press. Alright, so hit the thing to edit again. I'm gonna be right back because I need to use the restroom. However, I'm gonna insert a horizontal line because that's actually the end of that scene. Anyways, I'll be back in a little bit. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. I'll probably be in chat with you guys for a moment because I need to poo. Oh, so this is actually one of the like historical stories for the world of Athorian. And yes, I know this is sort of a info dump, but it's one of those things of just this is the way this world is. Um, this is actually set in an era referred to as the Old Empire. The reason being is because the character Kareth eventually destroys the Empire and nearly destroys the world. And not in a kind way either. This isn't going to be rebels versus the Empire like in Star Wars. This is more along the lines of the main character or the protagonist for this book eventually nearly commits genocide. Oh, woo. All right. There's my thingle. Kavala. Hmm. Sarah. Hello. Raji wasn't the Equus. Uh, also spelled his name wrong. Ajari. So, Kavala, Osara, Kajari. You're doing dishes, huh? Aru. I'm sitting here describing the people who learned alongside Kareth here. Okay, that's kind of weird. M. Young, I still have no idea what you're talking about. Like I said, I've never actually seen Finding Nemo, other than just like snippets. I've never actually watched the movie. Okay, so the next few days felt like a blur, learning the ins and outs of the temple grounds and meeting the other students whom I would share the majority of my life with. These should be fond memories of dear friends, but in truth, they bring me little joy even now. Kavala, a Nari sculptor, was a gentle fellow, though I had been right in my assumptions from where his homeland. I had been right in my assumptions of where his homelands were concerned. The statue I soon learned was of his mother, someone who would be his muse for several more majestic pieces made in her memory. Osara the Urson chef, whose love of food was second to none. He was the quiet sort, a man of few words until you asked him to explain a recipe. His tribe had been all but lost to famine, and yet the pain of his loss was never evident. Kajari, the Draconis Forge Master, who was known to be brash and yet had a touch as gentle as silk when he wanted it to be. He was bold, speaking his mind to any who would listen and regaling them with tales of his militaristic lineage. Lucian, the Equus farmer, whose love of all things was apparent. What's a word? What's a word? Oh, he was impossibly strong. gonna be one of those things I have to Google. Where did I put my phone? There's my phone. How do you spell naive? Here. Zarishi, the Aryan musician. It'll rub, but the pot will stay in the dishwasher and not clean anything, so literally everything is covered in grime. That's gross. I'd say try running it again. If it does the same thing, then, well, sometimes sometimes the detergent thing gets stuck in some washing machines, or like in some dishwashers. So, the thing. So, I've got Kavala, Sara, Kajari, Lucian, and Zarishi. Ari, Urson, Draconis, Equus, Arian. Areth is my Kirasai. Hmm. Okay, so Anari, Urson, Draconis, Equus, Arian, Felus, Varus. Hmm.
Am I missing a species? Hmm. So, Anari Nursen, I can check. Aryan. Okay. Wallace. I'm missing Aquian. Huh. I should probably, just in case, save this draft. Hmm. So, what do you guys think of the cast so far? I think I only have one character more to talk about. Trying to think of what the Aquian should be or should have been. Hmm. Karina the Aquean jeweler had a way of seeing the beauty in even the simplest of things. To her, the world was full of wonder, even if she could not see it as we could. How she could see straight to the heart of things without her sight is a mystery to me even now. Andy! Oh, I see you are being a bouncy boy. So, Anari, Puricite, Urson, Draconis, Equus, Arian, Felus, Varus, Aquean. Aside from the Marsari, which aren't actually alive in this era, I think that's all of them. Nice, Andy. Nice. Oh, by the way, did you hear about the new TV series that they're planning on making in the Harry Potter universe? So, Irisai, Anari, Urson Draconis, Equus, Arian, Felus, Varus, Aquean. Hareth, Kavala, Osara, Kajari, Lucian, Zarishi, Ariana, Sagari, and Karina. Hmm. Alright, so recap. Next few days felt like a blur. Learning the ins and outs of the temple grounds and meeting the other students who I would share the majority of my life with. These should be fond memories of dear friends, but in truth, they bring me little joy even now. Kavala, an Inari sculptor, was a gentle fellow. Though I had been right in my assumptions, as to where his homelands were. Homelands were. Where his homeland was. The statue I soon learned was of his mother, someone who would be his muse for several more majestic pieces made in her memory. Osara the Urson chef, whose love of food was second to none. He was the quiet sort, a man of few words until you asked him to explain a recipe. His tribe had been all but lost to famine, and yet the pain he held. Lost his tribe to famine, and yet the pain he held was never evident. Kajari, Draconis Forge Master, was known to be brash, and yet had a touch as gentle as silk when he wanted it to be. He was bold, speaking his mind to any who would listen and regaling them with tales of his militaristic lineage. No, not lineage, ancestry. Lucian, the Equus farmer, whose love of all things was apparent. Whose love of all living things was apparent. He was never one for conflict, and though he was impossibly strong, he desired peace over all else. I thought him naive at first. I came to respect his decisions all the more when I learned of his past. Zarishi, the Aryan musician, was ever the awkward young thing. She could barely keep her balance with her feet on the ground, and yet she had the grace of a dancer when she took. Arenia, Phyllis Taylor, who was always the friendly sort. She was the one who pushed us to better ourselves and to grow. Had I but known how our lives would turn out, perhaps I would have listened closer to her wisdom and learned from her kindness. Sigari, the Varus artist, was far more than he seemed. Whether he painted with his brush or with his words, he could bring beauty to even the most macabre moments. I would come to envy his spirit in time, unshakable in every way and noble even in the face of true darkness. Karina, the Aquean jeweler, had a way of seeing the beauty in even the simplest of things. To her, the world was full of wonder, even if she could not see any of it as we could. How she could see to the heart of all things without her sight is a mystery to me even now. These people would come to be some of my closest friends, each of them as close to me as family, and yet, if I knew how utterly cruel this world could be, I would have kept each of them at far more of a distance. If I held any regrets, it would be that I allowed these people to witness the truly wicked creature I would become. I think that's a good place to end that particular chapter. By the way I'm planning on writing this out, when this eventually becomes a book, each of these chapters are effectively the musings of a man after he's died, or rather in his dying moments. Because, remember, this is how this book starts. The rain fell upon us all the night they brought me to the gates of the afterlife, but I could hardly feel it. Even as the stench of blood filled my nostrils and the pain washed over me from the spears that had already pierced deep into me, into my flesh, all I could feel was the white-hot flame of anger. Their fear hung thick in the air even now as I pulled in my dying breath. I savored it, the flavor of their anxiety as they stared in horror. I knew the question racing through their minds. How could he possibly draw breath? They were terrified of me, not just for what my mere existence symbolized for their precious empire, but because of because of what they all knew I was capable of. I was the monster they'd all feared, the man who brought death and destruction to their so-called civilized society. They were waiting breathless while I reveled in. If I could, I would have stretched that last breath out for all of eternity, but the gods were waiting for their own audience, and I could only relish in the idea of what I would taste in their presence. Would they fear me? Would they fall to the depths that I had in my presence? So with my final breath, I spoke out to the masses who surrounded me now, using what little energy I had left to remind them of what they had made. Your suffering will never end. The words felt like honey on my tongue, knowing that my last words would ring in their minds until their dying days. I had made them feel our pain, made them suffer as they had made my people suffer. And as I felt the cold edge of the final spear plunge into my back, the world faded away into the endless darkness that had beckoned me now for so long. They believed what they did in that moment was to be a triumph over evil. How little they truly knew. By the time my eyes opened once more, I could see it. A massive arching gateway carved of white marble and decorated with golden inscriptions. Prayers to remind the fallen of where they were meant to be. But the gates were closed to me as I knew they would be. I had known for most of my life that she would not allow me into her kingdom. Somewhere inside I had always known this would be my fate, and somehow I'm sure she knew. I would happily accept her scorn. Hareth Soulstealer. It dripped from every syllable as she snarled my name. The gates will not open for one such as you. I could feel it in every breath of her tone. The nameless plague I had birthed into existence had reached even the goddess of the Ethereum herself. Even if she denied my return to the flow of creation. Even if she tore my soul to ribbons and left me to wander the depths of the void for all eternity. My legacy would remain. And yes, I need to. But you're probably wondering what brought me to this moment, dear reader. So let me tell you the tale of how a simple child, who had been born into the bonds of slavery, left a scar upon the world of Ithorian that not even the goddess of life herself could ignore.
I'd say this was a pretty good fucking chunk. Oh god. What do you guys think? Yay, nay? I think I like it. Also, at some point, I have to start working on the cover art for this new book. I initially had for the first book's cover art. You guys will notice that's hand done, and it was actually done by a. Hmm. God damn. Nom nom nom. I think this is where I'm gonna leave this off. I mean, what do you guys think? Good place to end? I mean, I'm gonna have to work on a new chapter soon, so I just gotta think of what the next chapter should be. Hmm. Maybe the earliest lessons of Kareth, when he started learning how to wield, or rather, how to use alchemy. Because story-wise, he learns how to use basic alchemy for creation, for the sake of yeah, Yuki. They've definitely been behaved. But this dude learns the power of creation and eventually warps it and twists it into the power of destruction. He's actually the reason why in the world of Athorian there are two types of alchemy. There's the path of creation, which is things like making sculptures or art or clothing or what have you. Then there's the path of destruction, which is wielding alchemy to kill. Anyways. Oh, thank you to those of you who came by. Yeah. Thank you to those of you who came by. If you enjoy the commentary or enjoy the story time, I guess, leave a like. If you want to keep up with this or any of our other content, hit subscribe and ring the bell. Become part of our notification squad so you can see when we upload and when we go live. But for now, this is Kitthesoulless signing off. So until next time, everybody. Bye bye. Oh, and by the way, yes, this will be a book that you can buy through, like, buy physical copies through the channel. Once it's fully published. So there will be a link down there eventually to the storefront or shopfront that I'm currently building. So that'll be a thing. Anyways, until next time, everybody. Nom nom nom. We'll see you guys in the next stream. Later, Robert. Later, Ramon. Later, Johnson. Later, Yuki. Later, Eden. Later, Heather. Gotta go get some food.